Morning, Mike.
Thank you very much for joining us. I saw this picture of the ship on the front pages of all the papers this morning. I thought, I'm sure I've seen that before somewhere. And true enough, it sits somewhere off the coast of Scotland. I think sometimes it comes up the Clyde, and I've seen it there because originally it was going to be a prison ship. So I don't know whether they're planning to build more of these. I don't know whether they're planning to use this one in particular. But it's more talk and not very much action, isn't it?
I think that's exactly it, actually. There's a bit of a smokescreen going up at the moment just to show that there's action being taken. You know, how long will it be before these barges, ferries are going to be ready? What's going to happen once they are ready? Are people going to be held on there indefinitely? If not, what's going to happen after there's nothing left to do with them other than remove them, and they haven't got a place to remove them to? So I'm not taking it that seriously, to be honest.
No.
What I'd be more interested in to see what sort of shape this legislation that's going through at the moment is in by the time it gets to the other side and it's an act of Parliament.
Yes, because I think we've got about 3 weeks to wait until we see what comes out the other end of the pipe, haven't we? Because we've got the Easter recess in the middle. I think there's a couple of amendments that have gone in. Some Tory MPs want it to be less harsh on immigrants. Some Tory MPs want it to be more harsh on them. And the big question really, Alp, is whether having passed the law, it makes any difference.
That's exactly it. It's the nature of the law. Will it allow people to appeal? Will it allow people, once they've left, to appeal the decision to refuse them or remove them? And at the moment, it seems to me that there are huge holes in the legislation that's going through. And I welcome the proposals that were made by a couple of MPs. Jonathan Gullis was one, I think, and a couple of others whose name escapes me. Nevertheless, they did make suggestions that certain disapplying, i.e. Making sure that the Human Rights Act does not come into play, that it doesn't allow people to appeal and eventually go to the ECHR. I mean, that will simply bring us back to where we are now.
Well, exactly right. And the numbers involved are too big, really, to be solved by one single sort of swipe of a pen, aren't they? I mean, 160,000 people waiting for an asylum claim to be examined when they're only managing to do one per person at the Home Office per week. I mean, I think somebody worked out it's going to take sort of 1 billion years for all that to be sort of even administrated. Never mind the ones who are still coming, because let's not forget, even as we speak, there's still probably 200 or 300 coming every single day.
There are, yeah. We are, I think, at the moment, something like 3,500. But let's wait and see. Frankly, the weather changes. There's a little bit of a lull, and people think, it's been cracked. Well, it hasn't, frankly. Thousands are going to continue to come this year. And unless we start removing those who've arrived and have no right to be here, then I'm afraid more and more will come.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no question that the reason for them coming is the fact that they know once they get here, they won't have to worry about anything ever again. They can stay here, they can either disappear into the black economy, they can stay in a hotel, they can go and stay with members of their family. You know, and we're being fed this narrative now that many of them come because they have family members here, some of whom probably came illegally.
Well, I don't know about that, but in my experience, that sort of thing certainly did used to happen. But the fact is that we've got to get people out of long-term stay in hotels. That's just absurd, and we can't go on. I think that the camps, if we could agree, local MPs and the communities, that it's okay to put people up in former military camps for RAF or whatever, then great. I think that is a better way of doing it. However, what we mustn't do is, having put them into the camps, then give them the freedom of the local area to wander about and give them pocket money in which to go out and do what they want. That I'm afraid is just not realistic, not a nonsense, and certainly attracts people to a certain extent, and that's got to stop.
Yes, and apparently we're going to have to spend another few hundred million on France so that we can give them some more money. As I've said jokingly before to Richard Tice, it seems as though they've got the wrong end of the stick there. They seem to think that the more money we give them, the more migrants they send us. That's not what the point of it is, I believe.
Well, that's a very good point. It's how serious are the French about stopping people? When we sort of press them on it, they say, well, of course, we will do what we can, but this is really a Brussels matter. This is really an EU matter. Well, they've got their own problems, frankly, and if they had any sense, they would sort it out at their end so that they weren't pouring in through the borders of the external borders of the EU and making their way up eventually. A lot of them having applied for asylum and been denied it in other countries. But the reason that people end up where they do on the Channel is because they're attracted by the idea of coming here and not being removed at any time.
Yes. I mean, we hear stories and anecdotes from different countries in Europe about people being sent home, deported, whatever. Denmark certainly have done it. Sweden have done it. I'm not absolutely certain what happens, though. You say that some of these characters have been denied asylum in some European countries. And what happens to them then? Are they left to roam Europe? I mean, are they never deported?
Pretty much, yes. I mean, some are deported, of course they are. And I know the examples of Albanians being sent back is given. But by and large, they're no better at removing people who have no right to be in the country than we are. And frankly, the hundreds of thousands who enter the EU know that having entered, they're there to stay. What they don't get is they never get to the point of being looked after to the extent that they're looked after here. And that is an attraction.
Yeah, it really is. So, I mean, on balance, we wait to see what this law says. But, I mean, the Tories do know that this is a massive issue now. I mean, we've been saying it, you and I, probably for years together on this very station. But they've now finally got it, at least. I mean, is there any hope that they can do something? Have you got any glimmer of hope in your eyes?
You make the absolutely pertinent point that there's an election coming up. Yeah. And that is a huge, huge incentive to get this right. Because frankly, if the Tories do not get this right, then they can say bye-bye government. I don't know whether or not they stand any chance of getting in anyway. That's for the people to decide. But what I do know is, and you might ask Matt Goodwin this actually, because he's done some fantastic research on it. But the fact is that those people who might vote for them most definitely won't if they don't sort out the Channel. And indeed, if they don't sort out the wider issue of legal immigration, which is also out of control and going at a rate of knots in a way that is going to be harmful to everyone, including those who come.
Yes, indeed. Alp, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Alp Mehmet there from Migration Watch.